Hi, I'm Trey Gerald, and I want to appreciate this video of Eden Espinosa singing I Never Knew His Name, which is a slime video from an account called Eden's Last. So I'm assuming here that this is a video from the final closing performance of BKLYN the Musical on Broadway. There's a couple of reasons why I'm assuming this, aside from the uploader's name. But a little brief background here. So BKLYN the Musical opened in 2004 on Broadway at the then Plymouth Theater. It has since been renamed the Schoenfeld, which has no relation to the creators of the show, which is Mark Schoenfeld and Barry McPherson. I have like an interesting connection with the show because I was in my height of musical theater fandom, not living in New York when the show was being developed. And I had a sampler CD of 4 songs from the show. Like it was like a demo recording. I don't even know how I got that. Anyway, I was thoroughly obsessed with BKLYN the Musical and Eden Espinosa specifically. So quick rundown. BKLYN the Musical is it's a 90-minute operetta. Are there book scenes? I don't remember. Basically, the premise is you are under the Brooklyn Bridge and you are being entertained by a bunch of, I think, unhoused individuals. They are referred to as city weeds. It's 5 people, and they are going to sing for their supper. It's a phrase that is repeated often in the show. And they tell you the story of this singer named BKLYN who wants to meet her father, and the only way to do that is to sing for her life in some sort of like American Idol sing-off with this badass woman named Paradise, and that's the synopsis. What was interesting is there was so much conversation around the creation of the show because Mark Schoenfeld, who wrote, they're credited with music, lyrics, and book with Barry McPherson, was actually unhoused themselves in real life. And I remember when the Times article came out, I believe it was Brantley in the Times, or it was in the conversation with reviews. There was conversation about the actual story in real life of McPherson or of Schoenfeld's life was far more interesting and compelling and dramatic than the concocted story in the show. Culturally, this show hit right when Wicked premiered. That opened in 2003. So we were entering a new phase of musical theater where belting at the top of your range was just entering the theatrical scene. And the word on the street at the time was like, you have to go and hear this girl skrelt. It is unlike anything in the world. So there was a lot of buzz around Eden Espinosa. Also, Karen Olivo was a smaller part in the ensemble, and Ramona Keller was sort of the like sleeper hit. It also had Clevant Derricks from the original Dreamgirls, and who am I forgetting? Jeff Calhoun was the director. Kevin Anderson. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, it ran for 284 performances, 27 previews. It was not considered, at the time culturally, we were really pushing back on American Idol singing entering musical theater. There was I can't say we, but there was a conversation around that. So this was a book light musical with outrageously difficult pop singing. And I think a theater community that wanted to see Brigadoon was pushing back. So there are a lot of bangers from the show. To do a video on BKLYN the Musical Obviously, you assume it's going to be the most famous song, Once Upon a Time, which I could do another video on. But I want to talk about this little sleeper song that occurs just a little past halfway. The context doesn't even really matter. The context is, I believe BKLYN has made contact with the father, or no. BKLYN uncovers the name of her father. So she has just heard his name for the first time, and she has a very quiet moment to herself to reflect on hearing his name. The song is called I Never Knew His Name, and I want to look at this video for a couple of reasons. So thank you to the account Eden's Last for posting this like 12 years ago. Out of all of these views, I am definitely hundreds of them. What else is there to discuss before we jump in? Let's just start it. And let's just start it. Okay, first of all, we have to talk about how young she was. How old was Eden Espinosa in 2004? She's 26. Okay, it's crazy to go back and look at this. This is a 26-year-old woman. I also remember, like, because I was so obsessed with the show, like, I did see it in person, which I can show a picture here. I was so starstruck that I handed my phone to a stranger and her mother. They didn't know how to work the camera, but I didn't know how to instruct them because I was posing with Eden and I was so starstruck I couldn't speak to her. So I just looked at her, and then they didn't know how to use the camera, and I didn't know what to do because my heart was pounding so fast that I just sort of like waited for them to figure out how to take the picture. And I never uttered a word to her. Anyway, this is that picture. Okay. My God, she is so young. My point was, I remember the inconsistency in her hair length because her hair had grown and they didn't trim it. And it's her real hair. She wasn't wearing a wig. I don't know why I just went into this story. Okay, let's keep watching. Liquid You. Okay, now before we get into this next part, I just want to mention this is 5 songs after singing Once Upon a Time. This is presumably the 208, 9. This is the 300th and first performance if it's closing night. 8 shows a week. I don't know how often she called out. I don't know any of that lore. I'm just thinking of the vocal fatigue that would be occurring in this moment leading up to this. So let's just keep watching.
All right. I
Okay, so I'm struck by the simple quietness of this song. It's funny because when I think back, I just remember thinking this was not an acting show, which I think is just a grand sweeping generalization. But in this video, at least, and in the fact that they can close up when we can see very close into her face, like she is emotionally connected. She's very still. She's very grounded. She's very simple. She's not pushing. I believe her. But what's fascinating to me about this video, I'm going to stop bearing the lead, is that this is not how the song is written. Now, I want to play a clip. Now, there's no reason that I'm choosing this, but this did go on tour with a contestant from American Idol named Diana DeGarmo, who was fantastic, a Broadway performer in her own right. So Diana DeGarmo did the tour, and let's just listen. This is closer to how it is written. Let's just listen here to that. She adds a little trill at the end, but so basically Eden options down here, which I love. I mean, I love that. I love it for many reasons if you're thinking as a technician, because if you think about climbing the mountain of the show, when you're playing the title role, and you get through Once Upon a Time, which is stretching your voice to its max, and you have this quieter song that is very much actable. Is Once Upon a Time actable? Sure. I would say this song, I Never Knew His Name, acts much more as a musical theater piece where you are expressing your internal life through song. Musically, it's interesting to crescendo and build. But if you are looking at a conservation point of view as a technician, and even if that's not what's occurring, I'm adding that. I don't know. I don't know how often Eden chose this option, and if it was chosen out of necessity or out of acting interest. Who knows? I don't know. I think it's a compelling take to let your voice crack, especially in a meta way when you're looking at how outrageously high you are being asked to belt, to later allow yourself to be vocally vulnerable when the character is emotionally vulnerable, I think is really beautiful and fascinating. And that's also like a reason why I just love live theater, because if you were to listen to a recording, which that's a whole other conversation, because this recording, the cast recording of BKLYN is recorded live. If I'm listening to a cast recording, I want it to be the balls to the wall, Diana DeGarmo, traditionally Eden too. I don't want to say Eden didn't do that. If I'm recording a cast recording, I want to capture that. It's more dynamic, it's more exciting, it's more thrilling. That's what the hype is around the show. People singing as hard as possible, as high as possible. And it just doesn't translate the same as when you're sitting in the theater, you've just watched the person belt higher than you've heard anyone at this point in history. Maybe not true. It's so much more compelling to watch someone be vulnerable and be quiet, especially in the context of what the show is delivering to its audience. But I also want to hear the vocal gymnastics that are captured on the cast recording with Eden. And I know that in the 15, 20 years of this, like, I have seen videos where she does do it. So I think this was an alternate option. But my God, it's just beautiful. It's beautiful. Let's listen to her voice crack one more time. 26. Ugh. I mean, I'd be so curious to hear how much of this is put on. Is it like we've reached the end of this run and like this is what the Voce is giving? I am sure that it is a choice to hit it as simple and quiet as possible and let it be an emotional moment, which I think is beautiful. I think it's beautiful. So tell me, what are your thoughts? Are you very familiar with BKLYN, the musical? What is your history with the show? What is your opinion on vocal gymnastics versus quiet acting vulnerability? What are your thoughts on being a 26-year-old opening a musical on Broadway where you're required to hit the most outrageous notes 8 times a week? I mean, I don't know. I appreciate Eden Espinosa. I appreciate the contribution to the musical theater. And I appreciate this video of Eden Espinosa singing I Never Knew His Name from Brooklyn, the musical.